Welcome to the first module of our Reverse 1031 Exchange Masterclass. In this lesson, we will introduce you to the concept of a Reverse 1031 Exchange to understand its purpose and compare it with the more traditional deferred 1031 Exchange. By the end of the lesson, you will have a clear understanding of why and when to use Reverse 1031 Exchange and how it differs from a deferred exchange. A reverse 1031 exchange allows investors to acquire replacement property before selling their existing property. This is particularly useful in scenarios where the ideal replacement property is identified, but the sale of the current property has not yet occurred. The primary purpose of a reverse 1031 exchange is to secure desirable replacement property without waiting for the sale of the existing property, providing flexibility in cases where the sale process is delayed or fall through. It also allows investors to act quickly in a hot market to secure property that might not be available later and align their purchase and sale based on a strategic investment goal, knowing what to buy even if the sale is uncertain. Well, let's look at the table here that compare and contrast reverse 1031 exchange and the more traditional deferred 1031 exchange. So we're going to look at the process, the timeline, and typical use. So for the process with a reverse 1031 exchange, you first acquire the replacement property and then you sell the existing property. But with the deferred exchange, of course, you sell the property that you own first and then you buy the replacement property. The second thing we want to compare is timeline. So these are pretty much similar. For the reverse 1031 exchange, it's going to be 45 days to identify and 180 days rule to close on the second deal. But of course in reverse order, right? For the deferred 1031 exchange, also known as the delayed 1031 exchange, you have 45 days to identify the potential replacement properties and 180 days to complete the purchase of the replacement property. Typical use for a reverse 1031 exchange, it is useful when the replacement property is time sensitive or if the sale of the existing property is uncertain or delayed. So usually in the hot market, you see a property you really like, you think it's going to fit really well with your investment strategy, investment goal, and you don't want it to pass by. You want to purchase it, but maybe lacking the fund, or you prefer to sell another property that you know that you want to choose which property that you want to sell later. You don't want to wait, and then you just want to you want to seize this new property that you really like, right? For a deferred 1031 exchange, usually it's going to be a bit more strategic move in a way that you identify the property that you want to unload, you want to sell. So maybe it could be something that's not performing well in your investment portfolio. It could be a market that you want to get out. So you want to exchange it into a better market. So that could be the case. So you already know which property you want to get rid of, and then while you listing it for sale, you're also looking at property that you can buy with the 1031 exchange money. So the next step, I want to look at the pro and con of a reverse 1031 exchange. Some of the pros are ensuring investor can secure replacement property that they like. So you know what property you want to buy that you really like first. And it provides flexibility in case that, say you are thinking you're going to do a deferred 1031 exchange. But for some reason, the sale of your property is taking long. And then you suddenly saw something that you really like, you want to buy. So you could, you just switch strategy. So you're switching from doing a deferred 1031 exchange and then you switch it to a reverse 1031 exchange. So that gives you time for the property that you're selling to close. In the meantime, you can, snap the property that you like. Another pro is that it enables investors to take advantage of the favorable market condition, right? And then buy the replacement property immediately. Just say, for example, interest rate suddenly dip today and buying is really beneficial, and you know that might be gone in a short period of time. Or you want to snatch this opportunity and get financing and purchase the new property, so you could do that. So it gives you some flexibility there. Let's look at the cons of reverse 1031 exchange. This type of exchange is more complex than deferred exchanges due to you need to navigate more of the IRS rules. And then there's additional step that you need to set up. That is an exchange accommodation title, which is EAT. And then we're gonna look into what is an EAT later. Another con is securing financing for the EAT to hold a replacement property might be a little bit difficult and might require some creative solutions. We will talk about that as well, about financing. Potential higher transaction costs due to the involvement of third parties and the need for more complex legal and financial arrangements. So with anything more complex and harder to do, it's gonna probably cost more. And then also you involve more parties into the transaction, right? Because with a regular 1031 exchange, you basically need a QI only, the qualified intermediary. But now with the reverse 1031 exchange, you're gonna need the exchange accommodation title and a little more of legal steps and more financial and legal and tax planning. So it's probably gonna cost you more than a regular straightforward default 1031 exchange. Next up, we already looked at the reverse 1031 exchange pros and cons. Now let's look at the pros and cons of the default 1031 exchange, so you can see the differences. One of the pros of the default 1031 exchange is generally it's simpler to execute. One is follow a straightforward process of selling first and buying second. The second pro is it typically involves fewer third-party arrangements, leading to potential lower cost. Another pro is more common and widely understood by real estate professionals and financial institutions. Usually when you do a 1031 exchange, the default 1031 exchange, even though it's more common and people talk a lot about 1031 exchange these days, but not all people understand it and not all people understand it at the same level. So a lot of time, even with the default 1031 exchange, you still have to educate people on your team, like your real estate agent. When you work with a CPA or an accountant for your taxes, you want to make sure they understand the 1031 exchange already, because you don't want to have to explain what it is to them and have them to learn on your dime, right? Because the 1031 exchange, it's very rules bound by the IRS, so every detail you have to follow it by the book to the T. So if something missing or something dropped, you are at risk of being disqualified, and now you're gonna have to pay all that capital gain taxes that you're trying to avoid in the first place, right? You can try to educate your real estate agent, but for your tax accountant, your CPA, definitely look for somebody with a lot of experience. And of course, the qualified intermediary, of course, you want to work with somebody that have a ton of experience and knowing what they do, right? A lot of people heard about 1031 exchange, but a lot of times you still have to get everybody on the same page and educate some member of the team a little bit. It's going to be even harder with reverse 1031 exchange, because when people think about 1031 exchange, they only thought that it's only default 1031 exchange. That's what they think that all there is for 1031. They did not know, not many people actually know that 1031 exchange, you have deferred, you have reverse, you have construction, improvement, like all kind of fun stuff with 1031 exchange that you could do. So kudos to you at taking the course. So you are learning a pretty advanced strategy for real estate investor. Give you more tools to your toolbox. Let's look at the cons of deferred 1031 exchange. The first one is risk of losing the replacement property. First is the risk of losing the replacement property if it's highly desirable and sold to another buyer during the delay period. The second con is the value of the potential replacement properties can change during the delay period without possibly resulting in less favorable purchase terms. The third con is that investors face pressure to identify and close on replacement properties with strict deadlines, which can be stressful and challenging. The reverse 1031 exchange offers a strategic advantage for investors needing flexibility in their property transactions, particularly in dynamic markets or when facing potential delays in selling existing property. However, it also comes with increased complexity and potential cost compared to the deferred 1031 exchange. That pretty much when people think about 1031 exchange, they only think about deferred 1031 exchange. Understanding the differences and the specific needs of your investment strategy will help determine which exchange method is most suitable for your situation. In the next module, we will delve deeper into the mechanics, setup, and execution of a reverse 1031 exchange, providing you with the knowledge and tools to navigate this complex process successfully.